a dark and foggy night, we arrived in front of a sinister building, hidden in the shadow of a dense forest. It was the Malevolent prison, a place that hadn't been mentioned in years. With each step toward the main door, I felt shivers running down my spine, but I felt drawn to something beyond the terror that enveloped my soul. The prison had been built in a distant past, and its stone walls seemed to have aged for centuries. The main window, a rusty iron grill, stared at me with cold and inhuman eyes. It was hard to believe that in this place, once filled with suffering and pain, the tormented souls of the inmates had lived and died. A rusty key, which I found in an old box in my car, opened the door with a sinister creak. The pale light of a hidden moon penetrated the dark hallway, revealing walls covered in graffiti, written in blood and desperation. Advancing cautiously, I stepped inside the prison, where the sensation that tortured souls were calling me was stronger than ever. In the main hall, where the cells were, I felt an oppressive presence. The lights were extinguished, and the sound of metal doors creaking in the cold wind seemed to be the desperate sighs of those who had been imprisoned here. As I approached a closed cell, I heard a voice whispering my name. "Please, help me. Set me free," the voice murmured, and I felt a cold hand gripping my wrist. I recoiled, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. The voice belonged to no one, yet it lingered in the air like an echo of suffering. I needed courage to move forward in this cursed prison, but I knew that the tormented souls were waiting to be released, and I was the only one who could offer them salvation. With my heart pounding wildly in my chest, despite the sinister voice that penetrated my soul, I decided to continue exploring the Malevolent prison. Step by step, I made my way towards the cells shrouded in the dimness of the main hall, and the sensation that tormented souls were calling me grew stronger with each passing moment. In a cramped cell, I found an old and disintegrating journal. With trembling hands, I began to read the words written with pain and despair by a former inmate. The journal revealed the horrors that people had endured here, the inhumane tortures, and the atrocities committed by malevolent wardens. It seemed that the prison was not just a place of confinement, but also a source of unexplained and unending suffering. As I continued to explore the prison, I discovered more evidence of the malevolence that enveloped it. The walls were marked with occult symbols and strange writings, and the atmosphere thickened with every step I took into the depths of this hellish place. However, I refused to be intimidated, and felt it was my duty to uncover the truth and free the innocent souls imprisoned here. In an isolated cell, I found a young woman chained, her eyes filled with terror. She was contorted with pain and suffering, and her soul seemed to cry out for freedom. I tried to release her, but the chains seemed endless. With a frightened look, she whispered to me, "You must find the ultimate key to free us all." So I understood that the prison was connected to a malefic occult power, and to free the tormented souls, I needed to find that ultimate key. With determination and a heart full of resolve, I set out to seek the answers that would unveil the mystery behind this terrifying place and put an end to the suffering of the innocent prisoners of the Malevolent prison. I left the cell where I had found the young prisoner, determined to uncover the secret of the prison and find the ultimate key to release the tormented souls. As I ventured deeper into the unexplored darkness of the prison, I had the sensation that unseen eyes were watching me, and the entire building seemed to have a malevolent consciousness. I discovered a heavy and massive door that appeared to lead to the prison's basement. It was locked with a giant padlock and wrapped in an old, rusted chain. With considerable effort, I managed to break the lock and open the door, revealing a narrow staircase descending into the darkness below. As I descended the steps, I felt the atmosphere becoming increasingly sinister, and the walls seemed to breathe with a life of their own. My feeble lights revealed a series of cramped cells, each with a terrifying story of suffering. In one of the cells, I found an altar covered in strange symbols and candelabras filled with candles burning with a pale blue flame. On the altar, I found an old and decaying parchment that seemed to contain clues about the ultimate key. The parchment mentioned a horrifying legend about an occult guardian of the prison who held the supreme power to release or condemn the souls of the prisoners. To find this ultimate key, I had to go deeper into the darkness of the prison and confront the malevolent guardian. With determined steps, I continued to descend into the depths of the prison, following the clues from the parchment and feeling that I was getting closer to confronting the occult force that watched over this accursed place. With each passing moment, the prison seemed to reveal more of its terrifying secrets. I was ready to put an end to this suffering once and for all. Descending deeper into the darkness of the malevolent prison, the sensation that the tormented souls were calling me was accompanied by a powerful shiver and a terrifying presence that enveloped me. I eventually reached a room at the bottom of the basement, where the darkness was absolute. Only the faint light of the candles on the altar with strange symbols revealed a dark silhouette standing in the middle of the room. This was the Malevolent Guardian, a terrifying entity that watched over the prison and held the supreme power to release or condemn the souls of the prisoners. Cloaked in a dark mantle and wearing an old mask carved with a malefic expression, the Guardian asked me with a dissonant tone, "What do you seek in this accursed place, stranger?" With my heart pounding wildly and looking into his dark eyes, I replied firmly, "I seek the ultimate key to release the innocent souls imprisoned here. I will not let malevolence rule this place for eternity." The Malevolent Guardian laughed with a sinister chuckle and approached me. In a mysterious gesture, he pulled out an old and mysterious key from within his dark mantle and handed it to me. "This is the ultimate key, but the release of the souls comes at a price," he warned. "If you use it, you will take responsibility for these souls and guide them towards peace." I took the key in my trembling hands and felt a malefic energy passing through me. With all the determination in the world, I set out to free the tormented souls, knowing that a difficult and perilous mission awaited me. The prison held many terrifying secrets, and the end of the story was far from being reached. With the ultimate key in my hand, and the determination to end the suffering of the tormented souls, I left the room where the Malevolent Guardian guarded the prison's secret. As I returned to the cells where suffering ran deepest, I felt a sinister presence lurking from the shadows of the walls. But I refused to be intimidated. With each cell I managed to unlock, and with each soul I set free, I felt the malevolent power that shrouded the prison gradually weakening. The souls of the prisoners looked at me with gratitude in their eyes, and I knew this was my mission, to bring them freedom. Finally, I stood before the most terrifying cell, hidden in the depths of the prison. I opened the door and found a man who seemed to have been transformed into a malevolent being over the years of suffering. However, I felt that beneath this monstrous appearance was a soul yearning for release. I used the ultimate key to break the chains that held him captive, and I felt the occult energy that had enveloped me intensify. At the moment of his liberation, his soul burst into a brilliant light, revealing his true nature. He was an innocent soul, saved from the misery of the malevolent prison. Although the prison seemed to crumble around us, and the Malevolent Guardian tried to reclaim his power, I managed to confront him with the truth of the suffering he had caused. With a cry of despair, the Malevolent Guardian melted into the darkness of the prison, ultimately defeated. On that day, the prison was released from its curse, and the tormented souls found their peace. With the ultimate key in hand, I left that accursed location, knowing that I had brought light to a place that had been shrouded in darkness for far too long. But the memories of that prison and the suffering I had found there would haunt me forever, as a warning of the dark forces that can threaten to spread into the world.